So as I say, this is the webinar for an introductory webinar. So the UK Data Service holds the UK's largest collection of research data, and this introductory webinar is for anyone who has an interest in social research data and wants to hear more about the vast array of resources we offer. So we'll talk about the different types of quantitative and qualitative data we hold, how to find those collections using our online resources, and how to register to access the data sets we hold. We'll also demonstrate how some of our data collections can be viewed and analysed online, as well as providing an overview of the support and training resources that we offer as well. I'll be talking for kind of 30-35 minutes, and then we will have time for questions at the end. Do feel free to type the questions as you go along. I may not answer them right away because it might be something that we cover a little bit later on, but as I say, we'll have that time at the end to answer any questions that you may have. So this is just a brief overview of the sorts of things that we're going to cover today. We will be explaining a little bit about who we are and what we do, what data is and what sort of data we hold, as well as the online resources that we have and the guidance we can provide you with. And please remember that I can't hear you, so please don't try to use your microphone. If you do have any problems, you can pop something in the question box there. So what is the UK Data Service? The UK Data Service is funded by the Economic and Social Research Council, the ERSRC, to meet the data needs of research students and teachers from all sectors, including academia, central and local government, charities and foundations, independent research centres, think tanks and business consultants, as well as the commercial sector. Our primary aim is to provide users with seamless and flexible access to a wide range of data resources and to facilitate high quality social economic research and education. So all of our activities kind of stem from this aim. So here at the UK Data Archive, we work with colleagues across the UK to deliver the UK Data Service, which is done in collaboration with research data experts that are located at JISC, CMIST and the Universities of Leeds, Southampton, Edinburgh and University College London. So we essentially provide a single point of access to a wide range of social science data, but as well as the data, we also provide the support, training, guidance to help you use the data. So this is what our homepage of our website currently looks like. You can see the URL at the top there. So I would like to invite you all to spend some time exploring this website once we've finished the webinar. You can use the menu across the top of the page to navigate your way around depending on what topics you're interested in. We do have a whole host of resources and many of your questions you may have can be answered via this website, and we'll be looking at some of these later on. But for now, I'll just highlight at the top there the information for new users and the frequently asked questions tab, which is right at the top of the page, because these are particularly useful if you are brand new to our service. So who is the service for? So most of our regular users are associated with institutes of higher education, so staff, researchers and students. But contrary to popular belief, anyone and everyone can register with us, and we do have many users from other sectors such as local and national government departments, charities and foundations, business consultants and data analysts, as well as independent researchers and think tanks. So you don't have to be associated with an organisation to join our service. If you've got a particular interest that you'd like to pursue, you can also join. We're really keen for people to explore data, learn new things and improve their data skills. We currently have 23,000 users globally who are responsible for about 60,000 data downloads every year. So what is data? Data are facts and statistics collected together for reference or analysis, quite often to compile reports and essays that can be used to inform and educate. Sometimes they are distinct pieces of information, but sometimes they can be numbers, so crime rates, unemployment rates, literacy rates, and risk of developing a health condition. Data is collected in many ways, including through surveys, administrative records, business records, and censuses. So this webinar is really going to talk you through the types of data we hold and also show you some of the examples of how they can be used. So next we'll look at how you can get data. So of course you can collect data yourself, so this would be primary data collection. However, this can be expensive both in terms of money and time. For research purposes, you do tend to want a representative sample of the population. So realistically, it would be very expensive to perform a study on 40,000 households. You also need the expertise and experience, which can take quite a long time to come by and gain. So secondary data analysis is often more favourable. It doesn't usually cost you anything, so we don't charge you to use our service, register with us or use our data unless you are a commercial user. Sometimes there are some fees there, but generally you don't have to pay to use our data. And there are a large range of available data sources. The data will be representative, robust and transparent. We can provide you with access to secondary data which is ready to analyse. As we said before as well, we are also on hand to offer advice about the data you are using. So where do we get our data from? So the data we hold comes from a variety of sources, and we're allowed to decimate them under a license from the original data creator. So it's important to stress here that we don't actually collect the data ourselves. They are deposited with us, and we curate, preserve and catalogue them and make them available through the UK Data Service. So we get our data from national statistical authorities, such as the Office for National Statistics, National Records of Scotland, Northern Ireland Statistics and the Research Agency. We get it from UK government departments, including the Home Office, Department for Business, Innovation and Skills and the Department for Work and Pensions. Also intergovernmental organisations, including the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Research institutes such as NatCen, Institute for Social and Economic Research and the Centre for Longitudinal Studies, and also individual researchers as well. So the UK Data Service holds just over 7,300 datasets of a number of types, 4 of which you can see on the screen. And these 4 we are going to focus on in the webinar today. So you've got survey microdata, international macrodata, census data and qualitative and mixed methods data. It's important to note as well that new datasets are added all the time. You know, there's quite a high demand at the moment for COVID-19 data, and we do have a depositor who is depositing some COVID-19 survey data at the end of this month, so it's coming in thick and fast. So we will start by looking at microdata and macrodata. So here are the differences between them. Microdata is data at the individual level. It's collected from individuals through surveys. So these surveys might seek to find what factors influence health. Macrodata is aggregate data at a region or country level and is useful for examining how trends change over time, and macrodata can be created from microdata sources. So survey microdata. We have a large amount of survey microdata, and we'll look at some examples of those in a moment, but these are mostly individual or household level data which have been anonymised to prevent disclosure. So this means that it's not possible to identify individuals from the data. They usually contain large sample sizes and are nationally representative. These kind of data are usually analysed using a statistics package like SPSS Starter or R, and they're really flexible as they allow you to produce your own tables, populations, and you can take a look at relationships between multiple attributes. So this is a screenshot of what these kind of data look like when you download them. So this is a screenshot from the British Social Attitude Survey from 2009. So in the rows, it shows the people. So each row of this data set is an individual. And as you can see, you cannot pick anyone's name out or anything from that. And in the columns, the columns show the variables which are based on the answers to the questions each person had. So for example, this column shows the age that the person was at the time of the survey. Another example, this is a cross-tabulation of BMI by age group from the 2014 Health Survey for England sample. So cross-tabulation is the method to analyse the relationship between multiple variables so you can understand their correlation. And we also have a graph. So this graph shows how people's gross weekly pay from their main job is broken down by sex, and we can see how this This has been changing over the recent years. That's been taken from the annual population survey. So these sort of outputs you can probably see in government reports and student dissertations and things like that. So moving on to cross-sectional surveys. So some of the most commonly used of our microdata are the UK surveys. These are mostly about individuals or households, and these surveys produce very high quality data. They are produced by experienced research organisations such as the ONS and the National Centre for Social Research, who have had many years of experience in sampling, data collection and analysis. They have their own methodologists, researchers and teams of interviewers. So these surveys are mostly nationally representative at the UK level, or the countries within the UK level, depending on the particular survey. They tend to have a large sample size. So for example, the labour force survey interviews 60,000 people every quarter. And these data sets are repeated cross-sectional surveys. Many of them are repeated every or most years, but each time they are run, they use a new sample of people. They often use the same questions each time, so they can be used to track trends in the population over time. And they cover many topics, but there's just a few listed there. So health, work, crime, social attitudes, family expenditure, living costs and housing. So here are some examples of the cross-sectional surveys that we can provide access to. So the labour force survey by a long way is the most widely used UK survey, but we will talk a little more about that in a moment. But you've also got things like the annual population survey, which began in 2004. This aims to provide data that can produce reliable estimates at a local authority level. Key topics covered include education, employment, health and ethnicity. You've got the family expenditure survey, the households below average income survey. So that one is statistics on the number and percentage of people living in low income families or low income households. We've got the health surveys for England, Wales and Scotland. The crime survey for England and Wales. The crime survey for England and Wales provides an important source of information about levels of crime, public attitudes to crime and other related issues. The results play an important role in informing government policy, and interestingly, it measures the amount of crime in England and Wales by asking people about crimes they've experienced, but it also includes crimes that haven't been reported to the police, so it's an important alternative to police records. And you've also got the Citizenship Survey and the British Social Attitudes Survey. So as I said, the labour force survey is very, very widely used. It started as an annual survey in 1975 and has run quarterly since 1991. And the labour force survey is a study of the employment circumstances of the UK population. It's the largest household study in the UK, and it provides the official measures of employment and unemployment. The data can be used to produce statistics about matters that affect the whole community, including work, unemployment, training, recruitment, and looking after the family in the home. It is a unique source of information because it uses the international definitions of employment and unemployment and economic activity together with a wide range of related topics such as occupation, training, hours and work, and personal characteristics of household members that are 16 years and older. So another set of large-scale nationally representative survey microdata are the longitudinal studies. So these studies involve repeated surveys of the same individuals at different points in time. They are also at an individual household level, and whilst they are repeated, they use the same sample of people each time. So you get the answer to the same question from the same person over an extended period of time. So this allows research to analyse change at the individual level. So for example, you can monitor who moves in and out of the labour market and why. You could kind of predict poor health, why poor health happens in middle age. So panel studies tend to include measurement points called waves, and these waves contain a random sample of individuals across the population and often run for many years. So an example, household panel studies run in many countries, may run in many countries and include interviews of all household members. The core content of the questionnaires remain the same to allow changes in key measures to be studied. And sometimes additional questions can also be asked at selected waves of the study. So we'll take a look now at the Understanding Society data. So it's also a very popular data collection held at the UK Data Service. It is known as the UK Household Longitudinal Study, and it is the largest longitudinal household panel study of its kind. It follows participants over a long period of time, giving us a long-term perspective on people's lives. As a longitudinal study, the Understanding Society data helps us explore how life in the UK is changing and what stays the same over many years. It is a household panel study, so it interviews everyone in a household to see how different generations experience life in the UK. The study helps find out about parents and children, siblings, new family formation, and our wider family and community links. The sample size for the study is large, about 100,000 individuals, allowing researchers to investigate the experiences of many subgroups and ethnic minorities over time. It does include an ethnic minority booth sample. It also consents to administrative data linkage, so you can link data about health and education to their sample. So cohort studies, another kind of longitudinal study is the cohort study. The most common event that these follow are people born in 1 week in a particular year, and it tracks them over time. There are 3 popular ones that we hold at the UK Data Service, which we'll have a look at in a moment. They focus on people born in a single week in 1958, 1970 and 2000. Rather than waves, the measurement points for cohort studies are generally called sweeps. And because they are conducted in different decades, they can be used to look at generational change. Because of this, the contents of the questionnaire is age-specific, so the questions change over time to reflect this. They also tend to focus on health, social and economic circumstances. So here are those 3 popular cohort studies. You've got the 1958 National Child Development Study, the 1970 British Cohort Study and the Millennium Cohort Study. So the 1958 National Child Development Study followed the lives of an initial 17,415 people born in England, Scotland and Wales in that single week of 1958. The British Cohort Studies followed the lives of around 17,000 people born in England, Scotland and Wales in the single week in 1970. And the Millennium Cohort Study follows the lives of about 19,000 young people born across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland in 2000 to 2002. And the original sample size for that was 18,818. So here is an example of an output that may be produced by the 2 cohort studies. So this graph uses 2 other British cohort studies, the Child Development Study and the Next Step Survey, and it shows childhood psychological distress and youth unemployment. And so something like this may be used to advise charities or government sources, but over 1 million observations on 19,217 individuals have been used to create this graph. There is another type of microdata that I want to mention briefly, and these are cross-national surveys. And cross-national surveys are individual or household level data, and because the studies use the same survey instrument and where possible the same methodology, comparisons can be made across many countries and nations. So the topics here include education, income, working conditions and poverty, and some example of the data that we hold: European Quality of Life Survey, European and World Value Studies and International Social Survey Programme. So moving on to international macrodata. The first set of data we will tell you about is international microdata. Our international microdata contains socio-economic time series data aggregated to a country or regional level for a range of countries over a substantial time period. It's a time data series, and depending on the database, it will be available annually, quarterly or monthly. And we do update this data regularly, and some databases are updated every month. Many of the data banks are the current releases of the major statistical publications produced by intergovernmental non-governmental organisations such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. And much of this data is only available to staff and students from UK higher or further education institutions, but increasingly more and more of these data sources, such as the World Bank databases, are now open access, so anybody can access these through us. You don't necessarily have to be a registered user of the service. So the themes that these international microdata cover include economic performance and development, trade, industry and markets, employment, migration and health, governance, human development, social expenditure, education, science and technology. And these particular data sources are widely used, and they're particularly popular with economic undergraduates and things like that. So with our international macrodata, you can download the series you wish from the appropriate online tool, and these are usually UKDS stats, so that's what you can see on the screen there, or you can also get some of them from the International Monetary Fund e-library. If you use UKDS stat, you can view the data by the provider, and the program enables you to extract the information you require from the large database. And there are a number of user guides and video tutorials that can help you use that. So here we have an example of an output that can be created using international microdata. So this graph shows the population aged 65 and over from 1960 to 2017 using data from the World Bank. So we're going to move on to a different type of macrodata, and this is data that comes from the census. The census has a long history going back to 1801, and as you probably know, it takes place every 10 years. So we provide access to and user support for the last 5 censuses, and we have a dedicated census team on hand to revise. Census data is considered the gold standard as it aims to cover 100% of the population, and it's often used as a baseline for other statistics. It contains detailed combinations of characteristics, and there is a large range of topics which I'll mention on the next slide. The data is available in many geographies, and this makes it possible to reliably compare different areas, which is what makes it so unique. Census data can be divided into different outputs, such as aggregate, boundary, flow and microdata, more of which we will come across later. Most of the census data are now open, so available through us as open data, although there may be some restrictions on some elements of the census data that we have. Unfortunately, the licenses under which we hold these data may be restricted to some people in higher education, but there is information on our website for each individual data on the catalogue page. So many of you may have seen this questionnaire before. It is the household questionnaire that formed part of our last census, the one held in 2011. And you can see there the range of topics that tend to be included in the census. So you've got age, sex, health, religion, ethnicity, caring, travel to work, household composition, housing, car ownership, employment and education. But topics do vary every census, so you can see those ones in red: national identity, second homes and intention to stay in the country. They were added to the 2011 census. So census aggregate data. Aggregate data provides counts, usually of individuals or households, with particular characteristics for an area. And this area could be very large or it could be very small. So the benefit of having census data is that it allows you to be very flexible. So you may want to produce tables of graphs based on a very small population. So for example, the number of people who are aged 50 and are unemployed, a combination of characteristics, within each of the wards in the district of Greater Manchester. So that would be a set of geographical zones. If you are interested in using aggregate census data, then you can use Infuse for 2001 and 2011. This is the interface here that you see on the screen, and it's all done within your web browser. Infuse is designed to guide users in selecting census aggregate data relating to combinations of characteristics and interests that are of interest to them and suitable for their research. You pick your topics from the the options showed on the screen and you specify your parameters, and then you can produce outputs such as this one. So this is a visual example of using census data, and it shows you how the number of people who define themselves as Christians has declined in England and Wales between 2001 and 2011. We also provide access to other census boundaries for a wide range of geography, so the census from 1981 to 2011. The first map that you see in the top left is the largest, showing regions, and then you can zoom into smaller and smaller geographical areas until you get to wards, and the smallest area is super output areas. So here you can see an example of where we've zoomed in to the Wirral. The boundaries are available in a range of geographic information system formats. And here are the various boundary data tools that are available if you're interested in doing things such as mapping using census data. They can be used for different types of mapping exercises, including looking at flows and migration between different areas. We provide access to digitized boundary data sets and geographic lookup tables corresponding to the census geography of the UK. Again, digital boundaries are provided in common geographical information system formats, that's GIS formats. I should say that data that do not fall under the open government licence are subject to restrictions. So there may be some instances here where this particular resource is restricted to those within higher education. Data which falls under open government licence are available to all users, and non-open government licence data may still be subject to access restrictions. But details of which data are open and which are restricted can be found on the Boundary Data Licenses webpage on our website. So Census Flow data, this is also known as interaction data, and they are data that relate to the flow of people between places. So whereas most census data can relate to counts of people at single locations, flow data describes interactions between two locations, so origins and destinations. The most common flow data relate to migration and commuting flows, although data from the latest 2011 census also include information on movements between main and second addresses. So currently, migration and commuting data from the 1981, 1991, 2001 and 2011 censuses are available through Wicked, as another online resource that we have, as well as some annual migration data derived from the NHS patient registers. You can find the links to Wicked on our website. So moving on to census microdata, we provide access to cross-sectional census microdata. So these are anonymised individual level records sampled from a single census. They are large individual level files which resemble the sort of data that might be collected directly from a questionnaire. And because individual records contain a wide range of individual and household characteristics, the data enables multivariate analysis for a wide range of purposes. So we hold contemporary data from the 1981 to the 2011 censuses and microdata samples from 1961 onwards. These tend to be, this microdata tends to be more flexible as you can produce your own tables, populations and attributes. So now you know the sorts of data that we hold and the sort of data you can use. We will talk about how you can go about registering with us. So the way you register with us can vary depending on which particular sector you come from. So if you are at a UK university, then you can use your own institutional username and password to register with us and log into the UK Data Service. And this allows you to access our data right away. If you are outside a UK university, then you can still register with us, but you will first have to apply for a UK Data Archive username and password. So you do just have a small extra step to go to. You just have to fill in an online form. So in order to register with us, you need to click on the login and register link on the UK Data Service homepage. It's just highlighted by that red circle. As I say, if you are registered with a UK higher education institution, then you can register using your own institutional username and password. If you're not, then you'll need to apply for a UK Data Archive username and password. So by simply following the instruction given at each stage, you can complete your registration. If you do need some help with this, then you can contact us, or we have a video tutorial on our website which will guide you through the process. The key thing about filling in the online form is to just include as much information as possible. So if you're associated with an organisation, please ensure that you list your personal email address associated with that organisation so that we can confirm your affiliation. If you're not affiliated with an organisation, that's fine. You will be given the option to fill in a personal notes box. So if you can just let us know your reasoning for wanting to access the data, we can ensure that your account is set up correctly to enable you to maximise the amount of data that you can have access to. Our team have to process each request individually, so we do have a 3-day turnaround time for processing these requests. But as long as you've got all of the information that you need, then it shouldn't take too long at all. So once you're registered with us, you then use the login part of that link to log into your account each time. I can see there's some questions. I will come back to those at the end. I promise we're nearly finished. So looking at the searching for data function of our website, there really is data for everybody. Each data set has an individual data catalogue page with lots of information about the contents of the data. So it includes an abstract, methodology section and full citations. There are also user guides available for many of the data sets too. So you can have data related to politics, economics, sociology, survey methods, sports science, language and linguistics, psychology, business studies, history, law, and health and human sciences. Here you can see the homepage of our website again. So there's a search box just in the moment there. You can see we've popped the word education in there. And this is essentially, you can do a keyword search if you like. If you know you want to find data on education, you can pop that in there. If you know the title of the data you wish to consult, so if you know after taking part in this webinar that Understanding Society data sets might be of use to you, you can pop Understanding Society in there. But also if you're working alongside somebody who might already have experience using our website or our data, and they know the study number of the data set. So for example, the main data set for Understanding Society has the study number 6614. You could pop 6614 in there and it would bring you to the data catalogue page. You can of course contact us if you're unsure of how to search for the data, or if you can't find the data that you think we may hold. I can tell you a little bit more about how you can get in contact with us later. So the useful resources and further help. We have a number of resources which are particularly useful for people who are new to your service. So as I showed you at the beginning, we do have that bar at the top of our web page, which can direct you to links about how to get data, how to use data, advice for new users, and there's also a frequently asked questions page on there, link on there as well. But in particular, we do have these pages on how to find data using us, how to register, and how to access data. And of course, as you know, because you are currently participating in one, we hold a number of webinars at both an introductory level such as this one, and we hold more advanced ones as well. My colleague Maddie is conducting the Finding and Accessing Data in the UK Data Service webinar next week, the 14th of May. I think it's a similar time to this one. And so that webinar follows on nicely from this one, as it talks about an overview. It's kind of an overview of the tools that the service provides, particularly our data catalogue to help you make the most of your data searches. And it kind of discusses the best approaches to searching for data and how to use the search tool to narrow down search results. They'll also explore other service resources to help you get the data you want for your research. Again, this webinar and that webinar next week will be available online in our past events section on our website, and our Twitter page will let you all know when the resources are ready to be viewed. So we also have online resources to help you figure out how to use the data we provide. So we have a section of the website dedicated to this. As I said before, you can find it along the top of that search bar at the top of the website. The use section contains information on advice and support links to our help desk where you can ask any questions, and there's also a number of guides and video tutorials as well as information and resources designed for users. So for example, along the left hand side there you can see different sections, and there's a data skills module. So the data skills module tend to be at an introductory level, and they're interactive modules designed for users who want to get to grips with key aspects of data. So whether that be survey data, longitudinal, aggregate data. This is an example of our surveys data module. So each module stands alone, but those with little experience of using surveys may find it useful to start with. There's a couple of examples there of the different units that they entail. The whole module, I think this one takes around 2 hours to complete. So if you do have any data related queries, whether that's with registering for the service, whether that's data related queries, you can use the help or contact us section of the website, and you can get in touch with our help desk. We do have a whole range of queries there, from what you think is very basic to what is very complex. We'll always try our best to help. So some of the most common examples of data related queries are kind of finding data suitable for some research that you want to take, identifying where specific variables may be located within different data sets, understanding the data, so the coding frames, and also if you have any problems with the data or you want some help understanding some anomalies. And we do have an email address which will appear at the end of this webinar that you can use to get in touch. But we also have online web forms available through the website. These web forms are designed to go automatically to the team that can help you. So you have different online form titles. So there's a registration one, there's an accessing data one, there's a finding and searching data one, there's a website, a technical problems one, and you can select which web form best suits your question, and it will be automatically redirected to the team that are best suited to help you. We do also have a telephone number, but like a lot of you, we're working remotely at the moment, so unfortunately that isn't being manned, but we are available through those web forms and through the email address, as I said as well. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the webinar. I know a couple of you have asked some questions, so I will go through those in a moment. I will read the question out, so I know that you can't see any of the questions that I can see on my screen. Please remember that we cannot hear you, but you can type your question, I will answer it. But alternatively, if you do think of a question later on, you can email us. Our help desk email address is there, help@ukdataservice.ac.uk. There's a link to our website as well, and you can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/UKDataService. They post on their kind of new releases of data, any updates that you may need, especially kind of in the current COVID-19 pandemic that we're in, a very strange time. But also that is where you'll be alerted to this webinar going online and things like that. So I'll just have a little look at these questions. So if you register with your PhD university login info, will you have to create a new account when your PhD finishes? Yes, that's a very good question. So with the UK Data Service, we do require users to have an account associated with each organisation. So it's absolutely fine if you're, say, you're doing a PhD, but you're also carrying out research on behalf of another organisation. You can have more than one account, and we do ask that you don't access the same data set for different projects. So if you needed to access Understanding Society for your PhD, but also for a job you were doing for another organisation, you would have to have 2 separate accounts and add the Understanding Society data to the 2 different projects within the account. And again, if you move institution, obviously naturally you move on, we do ask please that you do create a new account. What questions have we got? We do have, so we've got a question here asking if there is access to household consumption and food patterns, and we do certainly have data on that topic. I would advise filling in one of our web forms for that. I'm a member of the Access team, so I specialise kind of in helping get you guys registered and downloading the data. It's our support team that specialise in finding the variables within data and advising what data may be best for your research. So if you wanted to go onto our website, so the link is there, you can fill in one of our web forms which says you can either do finding or searching data or analysing and using data. They'll both go across to our support teams. And if you'd like to explain a little bit about the research you wish to undertake, they can advise you on the sorts of data and data sets that are available that may be of use to you. For a research think tank, and I was wondering if there's a way to upload data that we collect from our projects onto the site. Yes, so you can also, it does also work the other way. We have something called the Reshare Depository, and a lot of organisations do have to upload things with us as part of the terms and conditions of their grants. So again, you can email us at help.ukdataservice.ac.uk, or if you go on to our website, you can get in touch with the Reshare team using the depositing data web form. I don't know too much about the kind of ins and outs of that process, because obviously there's legal things that are associated with it and things like that. But you can get in touch with them and they'll be able to let you know how to go about it and kind of the time frames and the conditions that need to be met. I don't know that I can see any more questions on there. I'll give people a couple more minutes in case they do kind of think of anything. I can understand that the data can be used for publication purposes if the source is acknowledged. Is that correct? So yes, so whilst you can't publish the data directly, so as the raw data, you can publish any outputs that you create from it. So when you register with us, you will be asked to agree to our end user license terms and conditions, and that, as you rightly say, outlines the requirements for publication. Off the top of my head, testing me, one of them is that you must correctly cite the data. So each data set has a dedicated data catalogue page, and on there is a full citation, and we do ask please that you use that citation when you publish data. And we also ask, as part of that end user license, that you alert us to any publications that you make using data that you get through us. This is for two main reasons really. First one, we really like to know how the data has been used. It's really interesting for us to see how the data is used and how it's been helpful for people. And also just because the data owners like to know that as well, and we can get a really good record of where our data has been and what it's been used for. But yes, the end user license does outline it all. You can alert us to a submission of a publication, or again on our website we have a web form that's entitled Submitting Research Publications, and it just asks you a little bit about the title, what data you use, and if you have a DOI you can pop that in there as well. Do we have to be on campus to log in using our institutional login? No, you don't. Very good question. So if you go to that login and register button button, you select your organisation. You start typing it, and there should be a drop-down menu appear with your organisation. You select that, submit that, and you'll be redirected to your institutional login. So it looks a bit like the page you get when you log into your email, for example. And if it's your first time registering, you will be asked to accept the read and accept the end user license. And then you're good to go. No, you don't have to be located on campus. That's absolutely fine. I know a lot of you aren't at the moment. If you don't think of anything right now, but perhaps you revisit this, or if you've been making notes, you kind of look back through your notes, do feel free to get in touch via that email address or our web forms online. We are still very much up and running, although it is from home rather than in the office. As I say, do take a moment to kind of navigate through our website, and again, you can use that bar at the top of our websites, split into different categories and things like that. You might have some more questions once you've had a little look. I've noticed that some of the data is available in SPSS format. What other formats are available? So it does vary between the data sets, but the most common ones are SPSS, Starter, and Tab. Those tend to be the three most common ones. With Tab, you can convert those into an Excel spreadsheet, so you see it in a spreadsheet. But if you want to make sure before you download it, what you can do is you can locate the data you require, go to the Access tab in the top right-hand corner. It's a purple button. You can add it to a project, and when you get to the download step, you can select which format you wish to download it in. But those are the three most common ones that we have. Yeah. If you do need some instructions to convert the tab format into Excel, do let us know, because we do have some instructions for that, and our support team have experience of using SPSS and Starter, so just in case you come across something that you're not familiar with. So if I'm registered through my university, are there any other restrictions in accessing the Secure Lab data? So Secure Lab data is data that is under our secure access license. So there are restrictions based around this one. I will try my best to cover the main points now, but there are quite a few. So you may need to email us or go onto the website. But secure access data is data that is deemed extremely sensitive and is not widely available. So there is an application process associated with that. If you're registered through your university, that's a brilliant start. Access is generally restricted to PhD candidates, just because of the sensitivity of the data and the access and security guidelines that you need to meet. So you have to be located in the UK. With secure access data, you don't download it like you do with the other data. You access it in the Secure Lab, which is a virtual environment. So you have to be able to access a computer that's located in a locked office. It has to have a static routable IP address. Ideally, it has to be in an office that nobody else is in. If that's not possible, it certainly has to be in an office where nobody can see your screen. And as part of that application process, you also have to become an accredited researcher. So you have to fill in a form for that, and you have to attend a Safe Researcher training programme. These are usually held in person, usually in London, but at the moment these are being conducted virtually, so nothing's been put on pause there. As I say, you must be located in the UK. But if you're registered through university, that's great, because you've got an organisation that you're associated with. At the moment, all non-ONS data is being able to be accessed at home if you can remotely connect to a computer at your institution. And we are still in negotiations with the ONS about making a similar thing available for ONS data. But the fact that you're at a university is great. If I'm using a data for personal research, do I still need to submit an application to access restricted data like those on innovation? So if you are conducting personal research, you can obviously access all of the open data like everybody else, and you can also access data under our end user license. The way to tell the difference between what data is or isn't restricted is the title is the biggest giveaway. So if the title says Understanding Society and the just, school codes and nothing else, then that is end user license and available to download straight away. If you have Understanding Society Special License data or Understanding Society Secure Access data, then you will have to submit an application to access those. Personal research is a really tricky one when it comes to special license and secure access, because you do have to have an organisation to access the data at. So with our special license data, you can't access it from home. It does have to be stored and accessed through a device located at an organisation. Just because organisations tend to be kind of set up with the security guidelines that the data owner is comfortable with. So it really does depend on which data you are looking at. But personal data and special license can be a bit tricky because you can't always meet those requirements. If you take a look at our microdata handling guide, if you just pop that into Google or search for it on our website, that lists all the security requirements that have to be met for restricted data. Another thing as well, going back to the secure access data, another restriction is you have to submit a secure access agreement, and that has to be signed by somebody at your institution who is able to take legal responsibility for your research, just because of the sensitivity of the data. That one. Is there another webinar to show how to upload data on the platform? That is a very good question. I don't know is the answer to that one, I'm afraid. If you go onto our website and go onto news and events, I believe there is a whole list of webinars there for the next couple of months. And if not, you could certainly get in touch with our communications team, because they are always interested in resources that you think may be useful to you all. But again, you can also contact our collections team or our reshare team, and they can let you know how to upload any data. Brilliant. Yeah, that's great. If you have a technical question, you can ask that at the link provided. Where can I find the data documentation questionnaire study information on your website? Really good question. So when you have found located the data you would like in our data catalogue, along the top you'll have the title, and then just underneath that you'll have an abstract section, and next to that is a documentation tab. If you click on that tab, you'll find user guides that have been deposited by the data depositor, you will usually find, from a lot of data sets, not all of them, you will find a data dictionary. So it lists the variables that are contained within that data. What else is in that section? Variables, user guides, the questionnaires for certain ones are also located in that, under that tab, so you can see the questions that were asked. And there's also, if you don't click onto the documentation tab, but you stay on the abstract tab, there is usually paragraphs about the contents of the data. There's a methodology section, so it gives a brief overview of how the data was collected. And some of them also include an email address for the data depositor, so it's not the single people, but say an OLS email address or a CLS email address. And if you've got any questions that aren't answered there or can't be answered by us, you can also get in touch with them and ask them directly. But there is a documentation tab on each individual dataset page. Yes, so using data are free of charge. Using data is free of charge in most instances, so we don't charge for the use of our data. The only instance where you may have to pay is if there is a commercial usage of the data. Now, there's sometimes a little bit of confusion about this, because when we register you, we might count you or class you as a commercial user, but you might be undertaking a project that carries a non-commercial usage. So we do have definitions on our website, and the main thing to take away from a commercial usage under our definition is that if you were using the data to generate revenue, then we would charge you. If you're a commercial user, say you're a consulting company and you're carrying work out on behalf of someone else to advise them on something, and you use our data to advise them, you might be advising, you know, a housing company, then that we wouldn't class that as a commercial use. But it is very rare that we have data being used for commercial use. We don't generate too many commercial usage licenses. You mentioned SPSS and Starter. Is the data available for use in other softwares like R? I believe that you can use them, certain data sets in R. If you do end up using the Secure Lab, I know R is a package which is included in that to help you analyze data. Okay. Okay, well, I think that is all of the questions for now. It is a little bit past 3 o'clock. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I hope you found it helpful. As I say, if you do have any further questions, you can email us there, or you can use the web forms on our website. And we are off tomorrow, but we will, of course, respond to you as quickly as possible. I hope you found it useful, and stay safe. Thank you very much.